Rocket League, one of the most confusing games I've ever picked up, because somehow this game is both a toy car game and one of the hardest competitive games I've ever played. Because when you first hear about Rocket League, you think, oh, okay, football with cars, or soccer depending on where you live. And then you learn that the average player can fly. I cannot. So welcome back to the series where I try to become simply better than the average player at games I probably should not be playing. And according to the actual rank distribution this time, not the accidental fake maths I did in the Rainbow Six video, which people did not hesitate to point out, I do appreciate the constructive criticism though. Keyword constructive. So the average Rocket League player is around Platinum 2. The median player is Platinum 1. And the most common rank is Gold 3. So my goal is simple. Reach Plat 1, Division 2, which is around 660 MMR. Easy enough, right? Wrong. Over the next few weeks, I would lose my sanity in 1v1s, get accused of being toxic for using game mechanics, fall into a conspiracy theory about my car being slower, spend hours trying to fix the problem that may or may not have existed, climb to the highest MMR I'd reached yet, immediately lose it all, and eventually completely destroy my controller. All because I wanted to become slightly above average at car football. Epic Games says I have around 80 hours in Rocket League. However, that was from about 3 years ago when me and my friends would queue 3v3s and drive directly at the ball like wild animals. Which was honestly a valid strategy for the time. I basically knew nothing. Fast forward to present day, I basically know nothing. So instead of immediately ruining the ranked experience for others, I messed around in free play to get my bearings. Which taught me two things very quickly. 1. Ball cam is hell. It's such an abnormal video game perspective that I've never experienced in any other game. Everyone online says they use ball cam 99% of the time. 99%? That has to be an exaggeration. When the ball goes directly over my head or behind me, it makes me feel like I'm about to have an aneurysm. I would try to orient my car, miss the ball completely, and suddenly I'm upside down in my own net watching them score. And 2, this game has absolutely zero mercy for new players. The tutorials don't even scratch the epidermis of what you can do in this stupid Hot Wheel ball game. So eventually, I moved into 1v1s because I didn't want to grief my teammates yet, which is where the toxicity almost immediately started. One guy told me I was taking cheap shots and that I was toxic for demoing him. I demoed him like twice. It's a feature. The developers put that there. He complained and then he surrendered. Foreshadowing. After around 40 1v1s where I finally felt like I could somewhat hold my own, I moved on to the main mode of the game. 3v3s. Also, Rocket League players communicate almost entirely through quick chat, which sounds harmless, good for the game even, until you realize they use it as passive-aggressive Morse code. My guy, you missed the last 3 shots. Can you please shut up? It's like a hive mind. The second somebody misses a save, the entire lobby activates like sleeper agents. And a lot of the times I've realized that people spamming quick chats are playing horribly. There would be some guy with 38 points that drove off to our corner to get boosts, spamming what a save after they scored on us, when he's the reason they scored on us. And then there's the ones that take the time to put down their controller, which I assume most people play on, and type out the most brain-dead complaints and insults. Yeah bro, we're the reason you have 1,000 games in gold. Rocket League is one of those games where the skill gap feels infinite, because at low ranks you'll meet people who genuinely seem like they've never touched a video game before. And then the next match, there's someone levitating across the map with the ball balanced on top of his car, looking like he's trying out for the RLCS. They should not be able to do that at 500 elo. The mechanics are absurd. to do even half of them, you need to have an understanding of speed, positioning of your car, positioning of the ball, timing, recovery, boost management, rotations. You are constantly assessing where both the ball and where every other car will be moving at the same time. Inclusive of your teammates, because they can absolutely grief you by accident. Or on purpose. And you know, it requires such an insane amount of time just to become slightly competent. But to actually reach SSL, the highest rank in this game, you genuinely have to know live this game for like 2 years minimum. Something else that became obvious very quickly was that YouTube tutorials don't always help. Some tutorials use terms that you wouldn't know unless you've been playing for a while and say you'll get it fast. Like they completely forget what being bad was like. Brother, I am looking for beginner guidance. What do you mean don't reverse, half flip? So naturally I went to Reddit for advice, which was helpful to an extent. Half the advice was genuinely useful for beginner players, and the other half can be summed up to play 4,000 hours or quit. Thanks, very encouraging. Also, there are so many tiny things that would help new players in my opinion. Like in free play, I would love some sort of left or right directional assist, because when I'm upside down backwards at my own backboard, I would be fighting for my life trying to just drive in the direction that I'm intending to. A speedometer would also be nice, because sometimes I'd be practicing kickoffs like, that felt faster. Then I go into a real game and lose to a guy simply holding boost. I also found out about Bacchus mod, a PC mod that adds a speedometer, custom maps, and basically all the quality of life features that the game should have, but it doesn't. I thought this was perfect. This is exactly what I need. So I go to download it. Discontinued. 2 weeks prior. You're telling me when I decide to up my Rocket League skills using the most recommended tool in existence, I was 2 weeks too late! Something else that I noticed was that people in this game give up insanely fast. The enemy scores once, forfeit vote. FF, teammate disconnects. Somebody starts driving in circles. I'm very anti-surrender though. I believe most games are winnable. I will admit I have surrendered a few times though, but it's usually when both of my teammates decide to abandon me. Because how do I win that? And somehow people are constantly AFK at the beginning of the match, which I genuinely do not understand in a game where queues are like 12 seconds long. You just queued up for the match, why are you not here? You mean to tell me you started the queue and then immediately left? Most matches are about 5 minutes long. You couldn't account for 5 minutes? There were games where kickoff starts and the person who is supposed to take the kickoff is just spiritually absent while the rest of us are getting scored on. I don't understand the surrender mentality at all though. I've seen so many games be won from behind. People throw the game so fast in my division. You could be up 4 goals, then people get complacent and suddenly you're tied. And you'd think most people that play here knew that. And through observing this mentality, I realized that scoring goals doesn't motivate people nearly as much as getting scored on demotivates them. So knowing this, I started playing way more defensively because everyone seems to have main character syndrome and think that the ball was promised to them. So I'd play goalie a lot more, which yes, I know technically is not optimal because team rotations are way better, but nobody's really doing that anyway at this rank, so let me do what works for me, okay? So I'd let my teammates have the ball and let the enemy team overcommit. And then when their pants are down, I'd strike. Eventually I got hard stuck around the 570s. Every single time I'd hit around 570 MMR, I would lose over and over and over again. Then eventually I broke into the 590s and thought, okay, I'm finally improving. Suddenly my car felt slower, my turning felt delayed, everything felt heavy. At first I thought maybe I'm tired, maybe I've been playing too much. Maybe I'm perceiving the game slower because I'm improving, like I tapped into the Speed Force. But after playing some more, I realized something genuinely felt off. So naturally, back to Reddit. And that's where I discovered the dreaded heavy car bug, which somehow sounds both completely insane and weirdly believable at the same time. Not too long after, I entered a spiraling rabbit hole of anecdotal remedies. Delete your cloud save, change your dead zones, reset your internet, rebind your controls, bind them back, reinstall the game, play only at night. I tried everything. At one point I started believing my car had developed depression. But after losing like 15 more games, I decided to use my brain and observed how my car wheels would not fully turn in free play, as if they were not receiving input properly. It must be my controller, obviously. With this revelation, I went to check my controller readings, and I was right. I had a slight stick drift to the left and resistance while turning right. Subtle enough that I didn't catch it initially, but impactful enough to make me question my own sanity. And during this I discovered that my R2 trigger wasn't even fully pressing down. So my car actually was turning worse and actually was accelerating slower. Which means I'm not crazy. They're all crazy, but I'm not crazy. Which felt great for about 4 seconds until it set in that now I had to fix this controller or I literally could not play the game. So I opened the controller, cleaned it, fixed the sticks, put everything back together. And it worked. Kind of. Now I could make a joke about your mother, but I won't. I'm not that type of person. I hit the reset button at the back of my controller and eventually the vibration turned off. And everything seemed fine. For about 11 seconds. Because I reopened Rocket League with hope in my heart, and that hope was instantly shattered. None of the face buttons worked anymore. So I opened the controller again. But while putting it back together this time, the ribbon cable disconnected and the stiffener had become loose from opening it before, so it fell off while I was trying to reconnect it. And to my dismay, the cable got badly damaged. And just like that, my controller was finished. And since apparently I live outside the global shipping network, getting a replacement ribbon cable or a new controller could take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Also, I'm broke. Having to pay shipping costs, clearing fee, tax turns a $50 controller into a $100 one. So when YouTubers say like and subscribe to support this channel, this is what they're talking about. This is your moment, because right now my entire Rocket League career has come crumbling down due to a tiny piece of plastic. But all jokes aside, we are less than 300 subscribers away from 1,000, which is amazing and I'm very thankful. It seems that people are enjoying watching me try to understand these video games and then absolutely lose my mind. So if you're into that, subscribe. I also made a Discord server because that's what real YouTubers do now. And I might start streaming again, so follow the Twitch. So yeah, this is truly the end of my controller. Honestly, I'm not even mad. I had this thing for like 10 years, but I did not expect its soul to be claimed by Rocket League. So unless some miracle happens, this is the end of my Rocket League journey. For now. Which sucks because despite all the suffering Rocket League has brought on to me, it's actually incredible. It's one of the hardest, no, the hardest competitive game I've ever played. But also one of the most enjoyable. Every tiny improvement genuinely felt earned. My peak was somewhere in the 590s, I fell back to 550s, and now this is where I reside until further notice. These were my final stats after playing about 271 matches and 120 hours for this challenge. Rocket League taught me that something with a very silly exterior can secretly be a mechanical demon, as well as patience, positioning, and how to destroy a controller for the very first time. Thank you all for watching. One day I will return to this game, but for now, I spin the wheel of destiny and seek out the next game for my challenge. Please subscribe.